Hey everybody, so today we're speaking to Faye Lawand from Auckland. She is an internal conflict resolution expert with hypnotherapy, and you guys will probably recognise her on all our Zoom calls and quite active in HNZ. So Faye, what we're doing is we're just kind of talking to the students, the ones that are kind of starting out, just top tips on how you got to where you did, and I know you've done it quite quickly. So let us know how you got into hypnotherapy.
First of all, hey Justin, always good to connect and to share experiences with a community who's committed to personal development and personal growth. I think that's really what draws all of us to this work, isn't it? And I think just like you and just like many others who are listening to this, I got into hypnotherapy as an additional career, and as a result of my own, as it was a combination of my own healing journey. You know, I mean, when I was like 14, 15, and I was in high school and my teacher asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I mean, I never said I want to be a hypnotherapist or an internal conflict resolution expert. I didn't even know what that was. Yeah. But, you know, when you have certain life experiences and you face challenges and you face chronic conditions where the prescribed way out isn't really serving you, and you start searching for alternative solutions, and you come across a modality as powerful as hypnotherapy, and and it transforms your experience, then you're called to want to learn more about it. And that was my experience. I had 3 burnouts starting at 2006, and my last burnout was, when was my last burnout? When I moved to New Zealand in 2014. So in a span of about 12 years, I had 3 burnouts. And I mean, and we know that burnout is, if you or anyone you know has ever suffered burnout, I mean, you know how debilitating it is. And it's not just, burnout isn't just about like feeling tired, although that's one of the worst aspects of it. You know, like you're tired down into your bones, but it affects your mental health. It affects your emotional regulation. It just affects every area of your life. And when you like me, you know, I wasn't interested in prescription medication, and I wasn't interested in talk therapy as solutions. And you start searching for answers, and in one session, everything changes in your life. Then you want to find out the how and the why. And for me, it just started off like that, you know, how do I heal myself? Applying these healing practices to myself. But then the more I experienced it, the more fascinated I was, and the more I wanted to learn. And I'm a lifelong learner, always have been. I come from a background of education and training, so it's very much in my blood and in my bones. So, you know, I decided to study it. And at first I was studying it more like just for my own interest. But the more I studied it, the more I was fascinated by it. And then I thought, you know what, like, let me just now try it with people. And the results were amazing, you know. And before you knew it, like one thing led to the other. And before you knew it, I left behind my other teaching career. And I started in this career. And I'm so grateful. I mean, I'll never look back. I don't think I could ever do any work that doesn't involve, on some level, helping people connect to the part of themselves that can allow them to make the change that they want easily and effortlessly.
Yeah. And so, with your journey, how did you find, so for these students, they're now in the process of the learning, and we know it's never ends, you know, the learning process, it just keeps on going and going and going. But how did you find transitioning from your job teaching into doing this? How did you start getting people to work on, and, you know, what are your tips around starting the actual business side of it? And I know you're very good at the business side of it.
That's a journey as well. So I'd say 2 or 3 things. The first thing is, I think is really, really important, is to clear out your stuff. I think it's really important to clear out your stuff, not just to work with clients, but also to let go, to have the right mindset to go into the business side of things, right? Because I know. I mean, it took me about a good 10 years after I trained to start charging charging clients, because I was afraid. The fear was so real. And so when I recognized that, I did work on that to release the fear. And of course, the fear, as we know as hypnotherapists, the fear and the insecurities that we have around our ability as hypnotherapists has nothing to do with our training, and it has nothing to do with hypnotherapy. It has to do with another story from another time in our past, from another chapter. So clear out the fear, clear out the story, clean yourself out before doing this. This is tip number one. Tip number two is I started actually, offering sessions. And then in return, I would ask for like a testimonial, a written review or video testimonial. It took me about 10 times of doing that to figure out, and people then backing out and, oh, I don't know, and ta-da-da-da. And then I wrote out an agreement. So I crafted an agreement for them to say, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm not going to charge you anything, but in return, this is what you're going to do. And if you decide not to do it, this is what you're going to pay. And they would sign it. I'm very happy to share that. I'm very happy to share that with any of your students. If they want that, very, very happy to share it with them. So that's the second thing that I did. And the third thing that I did was to also invest in business coaching. Because, there's something that Helen Might said to me very, 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 very early on in my journey. And she said, the way to get confident as a hypnotherapist is to actually do the hypnotherapy. But to do the hypnotherapy, you need to have the clients, right? And to have the clients, you need to have the structures, the systems. I mean, people need to know that you exist. So at some point, invest in, because this is a business, invest in business coaching and get smart about the business side of things.
Yeah. Because I suppose if you're not seen, you can't help people, right?
No. Yeah. And I actually really enjoy the business side of things because I see it as an opportunity to talk about what I do and share my passion for this with other people. And that was also part of the mindset thing, because I had a story inside my head, a limiting belief around business is dirty, or business, isn't for me, or, to be in business is cold and you can't have a heart and be in business. That's not true. That's just an old story. That's just an old story. I mean, really, when you're sharing this as business, you're sharing your calling with the world, and people get to know about your calling.
Yeah, awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would say is what has really helped me, and I know you talk about that a lot, is to weave into what you do as a hypnotherapist, weave in your other passions and life experiences and modalities. Because as we know, the mind is in everything that we do, right? The subconscious mind, it's in everything. It's in our emotions and in our blood and in our nervous system. It's in everything, in our skin. Incorporating another modality with it really actually accentuates the effectiveness of the practice, and it just makes the experience richer for your clients, and it just kind of gives you more scope with your work. So for me my practices, as you know, my additional practices are yoga, but with a capital Y. So it's not just the physical practices of yoga, but like the mental, the deep practices of the relaxation response, and the yoga nidra and the nervous system, which is so compatible with hypnotherapy. And it just creates a nice little, complete package and complete experience for clients. And I know that many hypnotherapists come to this with like a massage background or a Reiki background or a tapping background. Like, find a way to weave that into the hypnotherapy in order to provide a more complete experience to clients. And that also sets you apart from like other hypnotherapists and sets apart your process from other hypnotherapists.
Yeah. And it also, it helps with the fact that we're all bringing in, like with the hypnosis is a thing, it's a state that we put people into, but every experience we've ever had in our life is
Yes.
and is who we are and what we bring to a client. So even though we've just done our training, it's not just about the training. It's a whole picture of everything that we've done together.
Totally.
Creates who we are as a therapist.
Totally.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think that I personally believe, and now I'm starting to see evidence for it around me, as the old ways of doing things start to crumble and fall apart, and all the institutions are being kind of like revamped, from education to healthcare to government to everything. All the institutions are starting to kind of come under revision and review. I think that more and more people are going to continue seeking solutions that are non-conventional for their health and their well-being. And I think hypnotherapy more and more is going to become a very viable and more mainstreamed option. I mean, when I started doing this 10 years ago, part of the initial what shall I say, slowness of this taking off was people's mindsets, and what is hypnotherapy, and I can't be hypnotized, and quacking like a duck, and da-da-da-da. I now never come across that anymore.
Yeah, never.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's not, and it's so mainstream, and the people that are coming through are medical people. Most of the people in training are medical people. So it's almost done a complete turnaround now in New Zealand, where it's something that's really recognised and seen. Which
is phenomenal, which is really very, very exciting. So for those of you who are starting new, I think like you're walking into an incredible profession of the future. I really do believe this is a profession of the future. And I think the future of mental health lies in these modalities, which I think is very, very exciting, because we know that well-being, at least I feel well-being is the currency, is the new currency, well-being.
Yeah. Something interesting? Someone on one of the hypnotherapy pages was doing the latest trauma course with Gabor Mate, and he said and she took a screenshot of the transcript. She said in it that in the past, and I thought this was amazing, he said in the past, the way they used to treat trauma would be they would use a hypnotic technique to take them back to the point where the trauma started and to switch off the nervous system response. He said it's not being done now. We know it is because we do it. But he said, I feel this is the way that the trauma work is going to be done in the future. And I'm like, hello, we're all freaking doing this.
This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing.
So we are kind of leading the way into the way I think it's that work is going to be done.
And for your client, for your hypnotherapists and students listening to this who are starting off new, and I mean, I remember when I was starting off new, there was an abundance of enthusiasm and energy and passion for this, but there was very low confidence. And my confidence experience completely changed after I did your training on the golden thread technique, because I have now a tool in my toolkit to help remove emotional trauma, which is across all the limitations that clients come to us for. I don't care what clients to come to us for. At the heart of it, there is emotional distress.
Nice.
And learn a technique. If it's not the golden thread technique, find a way, put in your toolkit a way to deal with emotional distress, first and foremost as a foundation, and then you can layer onto it everything else. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you get clients that come to us and say, oh, I've had hypnotherapy, but it didn't work. When I probe about what sort of hypnotherapy, it was like relaxation hypnotherapy, suggestion hypnotherapy. Well, that alone will not work. It won't work. Because if you're layering suggestions on top of trauma, the subconscious mind is going to reject all of that because there's a different belief and a different reality internally. So learn and add a way to clear emotional distress, and it will totally transform your practice, because it will transform your clients' results and clients' experiences, and then your confidence level will skyrocket.
Really, yeah. What I did is in the diploma, I added, because with the golden thread you know, you can do the technique where you do it as a symbol and just pull it out and change it.
Yeah.
So I added that to the diploma so that the students had a way of clearing the emotional trauma as well as suggestive to get that real strong change. It's so freaking important.
Best technique I ever learned, best technique, as you know, that I use that with every single client. I use it with every single client, and it is consistently good results, consistently.
You're a good ad for me today, Faye.
Well, I mean, you know, your program speaks for itself.
Yeah. Awesome, cool. So that was really, really good tips. So when you said, just one question for them, when you said you went out and you did that kind of agreement, which I'm pretty sure the students will be interested in how you did that form, because it's a really cool idea. If they don't give that video testimony or whatever, that they do have to pay for the sessions. How did you actually find, was it through friends of friends, or did you actually advertise to get the people?
No, I didn't advertise. I was too chicken shit to advertise. It was just kind of like speaking to people in my network. Also, because at the time I was teaching yoga, right? I was still teaching a lot of yoga. So it was like with like the yoga community, they knew that I had studied that, and and it's very compatible with yoga, you know? So they were interested. So, you know, I offered it to some of my yoga clients. It was very much under the radar. I didn't advertise for it. No, it was through the network. I mean, you could advertise for it. That's how I did it, and it was great because now, you know, like having the testimonials then allows you leverage to then go out and say, look, this process does work and I can help you get the results that you want. Listen to these people talk about it. But really an important thing to add there is all of the testimonials that I got, even with the agreement, and it's in the form, you only give me a testimonial when, and I highlight the word when you are happy with the results, because I don't want a testimonial that lacks integrity. So the testimonials are there when they get the results that they're seeking. And I think that's really, really important to point out and to have in the discussion with prospective clients.
Yeah. And that's that whole energy exchange. I'm giving something to you and you're giving something back.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And like now, so now in my practice, like with friends and family, you know, I choose when I will do pro bono. But when I do pro bono, even now, I still ask for something in return, and that is like a review.
Yeah.
And I think that's very fair. You know, it's it's a fair exchange.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting.
It's a pleasure, Justine. Always a pleasure.
And I know that the students and the people watching this will bump into you on HNZ. And on
sounds good. I look forward to it.
Yeah. And of course, what's your website?
It's just my name, faylawand.com.
faylawand.com. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Faye, for chatting with us.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.